Why Van Halen rushed to release their debut single, the cover of the Kinks' You Really Got Me. There was a good reason. On Rock History Music.
So the band didn't want the lead-off single to be that certain Kinks cover. You really got me. I can understand a band wanting an original to be the first single.
Absolutely. And that's Ted Templeman. I mean, Ted, he was a master for sure. And Ed was disappointed. And I totally get that. But that opened the door for everything else. And what they called it, how did he describe that? As Van Halenizing it or concording it, like the Concorde, super, and certainly, I mean, it was an amazing cover. And then famously, Edward tells a story about Angel, who were another local LA band, and they had invited Ed over to the house. And Ed was still, he was a novice. He didn't understand the business. And they said, listen, come on over. You play your record and we'll play ours. And so Ed had a test pressing. The record hadn't even come out yet, I don't think. And they played him their record, and Ed played Van Halen 1, and they heard You Really Got Me, and they went off to go record it. And Ted, and again, I write about this in the book, Ted screams at him and says, did you play the fucking record for somebody? He goes, yeah, I played it for those guys. He goes, yeah, well, they're now going to release You Really Got Me before us, So I think they had to actually rush release the single. I remember saying to Ed, I said, well, I don't think it really would have done any damage. He goes, no, I said, it might not have been a good thing. So but that's pretty funny, that he would do that. I mean, just so, naive about it. There's something enchanting about that as well,
Let's start calendar pages. When did you start getting the writing bug where you had a feeling you could do this?
Those are two distinct questions. I've always loved to write. I loved to write in high school. I love writing high school essays, and I love doing that, Wrote for my high school newspaper. I don't know if there was ever a point when I thought, you know what, I think I can do this. I mean, maybe it's just the pig-headedness of youth. Again, I love writing. I love reading. I was a guitar player. I listened to a lot of music. And I thought, well, music journalism, I mean, that's maybe a way to combine all of those elements. And so you just start kind of going down a road, not sure where it's going to lead, not sure how long it's going to last. And, after high school, I had a couple things printed in like some very local, small newspapers, album reviews. And then, that becomes a stepping stone. And then you get into the Los Angeles Free Press, which was an underground newspaper at the time, very hip newspaper. And when I got in there, I thought, wow, this is something, I remember my first review. It was a live review of a show down in San Diego. I'm in LA. And there's a bunch of different bands. I can't even remember the bands. I remember seeing my byline in like the LA Free Press, and I got $20 for it. And I go, oh my God, this is remarkable. So I mean, certainly I gained confidence as time went on, but I've always been like of the mindset, the next interview I do is going to be the last. And I've felt that way really off and on for many years. Just being a little unsure, am I good enough? Will I be good enough? Am I as good as all these other writers I'm reading? So it grows, you grow in confidence, but I was really always unsure. And my brother's the same way. My brother's very successful, and every time he took a meeting, he goes, "Oh, it's gonna be the last meeting. They're gonna find out that I don't know what I'm doing." And he's been very successful. So that's just the Rosen insecurity thing,
The second time, well, you got the album, and was that before the second time, right? You got the debut.
No, that's a good question. So the first time I actually interview him, is early, and a phoner is early '78. The record comes out in February. So it could have, I think it was January. It might have been the end of '79, 78. It's hard for me, the end of '77. It's hard for me to remember exactly. It's in the book. But no, when I did the interview, the phoner, I still hadn't heard the record. So the record comes out in February '78, and I was on the list, for all the record companies. They would send you their monthly releases, man. So I had a massive record collection. Thank goodness for all the swag you got as a rock journalist, because it certainly didn't make any money. So I remember getting the record. And, looking, go, oh, God, yeah, Van Halen, I saw the cover, oh, there's that, there's that Eddie Van Halen guy I met, and I put the record on, and I wanted to be blown away, man. I heard so much about this guy from all my writer friends and everybody. People had seen him in the club, and I wanted to be blown away. I mean, I wanted to be blown away like I was when, I heard the Jeff Beck Truth record and the first Hendrix record. I mean, that's what I was hoping for. And honestly, I put it on, and it was so underwhelming. I thought, wow, I don't get it, and I characterized it, and I write about it in the book. It just sounded like Deep Purple, very fast shuffles and boogies, but not as good.
And you didn't like, and there's a certain vocalist you didn't like on that album.
Well, that didn't help. That didn't help at all. So so I probably heard Dave's vocals and, probably dismissed it, hand out of mouth because of that as well. I said to myself, look, I've got to be missing something. I sit down the next day and listen to it very carefully, top to bottom, and gone, 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 running with the devil. I thought, oh, okay, that's what I was missing. I get it, man. This is the guy. This is the reason everybody's talking about him. The guitar tone and his writing, his incorporating that kind of Hendrix rhythm lead thing, and kind of the bare tracks, no rhythm parts behind the solos, which I've always loved. So yeah, I got it then. That that's the guy I was talking to, so.
Tone Chaser is the brand new book by Steve Rosen, who knew Eddie Van Halen going way back to 1977. It's a great book on so many different artists. Ronnie Montrose, an interesting run-in with him, Paul McCartney, Joe Cocker, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, most notably Bon Scott, Ritchie Blackmore. Now that's a colorful story. But mostly Eddie Van Halen, who he knew, like I said, going way, way back before the first Van Halen album was ever released. There's so much inside information in this book. It's one of my favorite books that I've read in a long time, and I really enjoy talking to Steve. His stories are magical, really. There'll be links in the description where you can pick it up. Remember, if you want to contribute to the channel, if you want to make a donation, there are links on every one of our videos to PayPal. You can make a PayPal donation. You can join our Patreon, get early access to all our videos. But remember, subscribe to the channel, like our videos, comment on them, and share them on social media. This is John Beaudin. More from Steve Rosen coming up in the next 2-3 days. This is Rock History Music. Take care.